Blaze.
Jay Severin
on the Blaze Radio Network.
Jay Severin out for the week. You got me, Chris Salcedo, sitting in. 888-900-3393, 888-900-3393. Glad you've made it, everybody. Over the weekend on the Salcedo Show, I had my next guest in, and we were talking about the success of her program called the Campbell Christian Academy. And then something cropped up over the weekend about Common Core, and the vast majority of Americans opposing Common Core. And you all know this is big on the agenda of one Glenn Beck. He views this Common Core garbage as very destructive, and I wanted to get June's take on it. June Campbell is my guest. Again, the founder of Campbell Christian Academy. She's been an educator for 4 decades. Her students, pre-K through 6th grade, learn at an accelerated pace and are often 2 to 3 grade levels ahead. They do this by, going back to old school, literally, where you have the single-room schoolhouse, all grades intermingling and sharing and apparently learning very well and learning at an accelerated rate. June, welcome back to the Blaze Radio Network, this time on the Jay Severin Show with me, Chris Salcedo.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
So let's talk a little bit about, first off, I want to, for folks who may not have tuned into the Salcedo Show over the weekend, I want them to hear about the success of what you're doing at Campbell Christian Academy. Just boil down what it is you guys do.
Well, we teach reading and math to our students because we know that you have to get first things first. We teach reading by phonics. I use a method called pure phonics that I've developed over the last 40 years to teach the children. And we teach math the old-fashioned way that works by actually memorizing the facts. We give the kids tools in their toolbox, so to speak, so that they have the basics and they have a foundation on which to grow. Okay,
very well. You know what? And I was fascinated by the fact that you're able to intermix these kids in different grades, and the stats, well, they don't lie. They are learning, as I said, 2 to 3 times more quickly than conventional public school education. And do you think that the fact that the younger kids have the benefit of the older kids' experience and they're able to see them and interact on a regular basis, is that a help in that regard?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. They get to see what the older children are doing, and it inspires them, and it excites them, and they want to do what they're doing. And so we explain to them, you've got to work hard to do that. And they do, and they build a work ethic and a self-discipline, and they learn how to learn. That's the whole thing right there.
Yeah, I've seen this dynamic at home. I have a 6-year-old and an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old. And the youngest one, having 2 sisters much older than she is, able to, really her reading level is much more advanced. She has been forced, if she wants to keep up, and she desperately wants to keep up with her older sisters, she has been forced to learn at an accelerated rate. And I can imagine taking that very simple family example and implementing it in public education or in education in general, how that might be a great assistance in the learning process.
Well, it definitely is.
Yeah, good. I'm glad to hear about the success, and I'm hoping that the Campbell Christian Academy can be replicated all over this country as a means to basically stop the bleeding from a public education system that is now devoted to the advancement and to the benefit of the teaching staff and to the unions rather than to the benefit of the kids. So to that end, let's have a conversation about Common Core. On its face, what do you think? What do you think of Common Core standards?
Well, first of all, I don't really think the real question is Common Core. I don't think the real question is standardized tests or teacher accountability or any of those things. What I think it is common sense. I think that it's back to what we were talking about a minute ago, getting first things first and teaching these children reading. The kids are failing, and they're failing miserably, and they're going to continue to fail until the schools go back to teaching reading by phonics and memorizing the math facts, because there is no way these children can do what's being asked of them on this Common Core agenda without knowing how to read. How much can you learn? How much can you do if you can't read and do math? And we see it every day, Chris. The kids come in here in the 5th grade, and they can't read, they can't comprehend, they can't write their thoughts in logical, sequential order. for that matter, they can't spell or punctuate, and most of them don't even know if they've written a complete sentence or not.
Yeah, and it's really sad because and I know it's cliche, but these kids are America's future, and when they can't do the basics, we all suffer because of that. June Campbell is my guest right now, founder of Campbell Christian Academy. You made mention of how we have gone away, and this to me, and I don't want you to get political in any way. That's what I'm here for. But this is what happens when you take on the liberal agenda of looking about what has generated so much success, meteoric rise of our country, and then saying, okay, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to do something different. And it dovetails right into the discussion about education, because in the past we had done what you are prescribing, what you guys are doing at Campbell Christian Academy. And the liberals who have come in and dominated now the public education system have said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to start doing all these new age ways of teaching. And unfortunately, our kids aren't learning. And why do you think there's such a resistance to going back to what works, which built America to be the pinnacle in our world as far as technological advancements and learning and education?
I call it educationese. I think it's a bunch of big words that people don't understand. My dad was taught in his graduating class at Purdue University in electrical engineering, and I remember just like it was yesterday that, and this was back in the 1960s, that he told me that I would live to see in my lifetime the demise of the public schools, because even then they were reinventing the wheel. They were reinventing how they were teaching math and reading. Clear back then, they were going into this sight method and all this, what they called then the new math. And it's true. This is exactly what we're seeing.
Yeah, and you know what? I've talked about the Common Core and how it's being, well, a lot of its proponents will say, well, it's being perverted on the state level to meet state-level Board of Education requirements, and they're tailoring it to their own specifics. But there of course, have been the simple math problem that takes 182 steps to solve the Common Core way. There has been the one lady who is a very outspoken educator, much like yourself, has been in the business for decades. And she told of a similar effort back in the 1980s to do this as well, and where they were basically trying to come up with a different social standard for our children. They were giving them scenarios in which the gang is going out to break the law, to do vandalism or what have you. Do you do X, Y, and Z? And among the choices, there wasn't "I will not go along." There was never a choice to say, I will not do that. I believe in upholding the law. And a lot of people were noticing that, gosh, this seems to be a different agenda here among some of the elites in public education who want to indoctrinate rather than educate our kids.
Yes, I have seen that. I've seen the fact that the teachers are not being taught. They all come out of the same teacher school, and they're all being taught the same way, so they're all teaching the same things from the same books, and it doesn't give children the chance to get ahead and to be taught on an individual basis and be able to go as far as and as fast as that child can. Instead, they have to wait around on everybody else and for them to catch up, and the sad part is that they never catch up.
Yeah. And June, I know there are probably folks listening who are parents right now who would love to import what it is you guys are doing at Campbell Christian Academy, maybe get it into their neighborhood. Maybe they've had interactions with teachers who are just as fed up with the elitist liberal status quo that dominates public education, responsible, in my view, for its failure. Where can they go if they want to see what you guys are doing and perhaps replicate what you're doing in their town?
Well, they can look at our website, which is campbellchristianacademy.com. They can look at the method of teaching reading that I have developed called Pure Phonics. It's available to the public on iBooks and in hard copy. At home, the parents can get involved too.
Yes.
Even though,
you know what? Before I let you go, June, what is your take on homeschooling? Are you a proponent?
well, I never even knew that there was such a thing as homeschooling when I started homeschooling
Sure.
back in 1984. But I just knew that somebody was going to have to teach our children because they weren't going to get taught in the schools. and I ended up teaching our children until there wasn't anything else that I knew to do with them. I had taught high school for 10 years, so by the time I had gotten through senior English with my daughter when she was 14, we took her over to the college, and they tested her, and she tested into college algebra that summer, and then she got a full academic scholarship to SMU, graduated cum laude from the Cox School of Business. So I know that homeschooling can be done in the right way, if done the right way, is very, very successful. Most of the curriculums that are out there are same old, based on what the schools are teaching as well.
All right. June Campbell, founder of Campbell Christian Academy. Make sure you look it up. It's campbellchristianacademy.com. June, thanks for carving out time for the Jay Severin Show here with me, Chris Salcedo.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Been my pleasure. More to come on the other side of the break, everybody. Stick with me.
The Jay Severin Show on the Blaze Radio Network.